Coming off of that 6-1 thrashing versus Sassuolo in the Coppa Italia, Milan were looking to travel to Bergamo to play Atalanta to shake up the top four. And first impressions, the lineup actually looked pretty good. The same consistent lineup that we saw the past two domestic games, something that all of us fans have been calling for, a consistent lineup. And we saw Theo and Gabbia partner up once again. And I think going forward, this is the center back partnership we have to use going forward. I think they looked pretty good. I think they're starting to establish a connection kind of going on here. Gabbia being that silent leader, someone who you can look at as an example. And I think it's great going forward to see Thiaw get more minutes. And we saw the 4-2-3-1 on paper, and we saw Yunus Musa at that right mid spot. But realistically, in game, it was a 4-3-3 with Yunus Musa at that right center mid spot to give Emerson Royale some defensive insurance. In the first half, we came out guns blazing. I feel like we were really aggressive going forward, and we almost scored, I think, a couple seconds in or a minute into the match from Christian Pulisic. But we were fluid, unpredictable, creative in how our build-up play was, doing so many flicks and tricks and just unpredictable passes. And Leao looked up for it in this game, and I think he most definitely was. And I think you can tell all that you need to know by that goal. And yeah, it was a nice little line-splitting pass from Theo Hernandez, which was a peach. And Leao, of course, just making those overlapping runs on the touchline, and he finds Morata in the box. And as great as our goal was, our goals on the other side that we conceded, absolutely horrendous. And it's awful how we get scored on in the same way in these set pieces, just off of the back post. Just kind of off the top of my head, I'm thinking of that Cagliari game that, we lost. Well, we actually drew, but it feels like a loss because of the fashion that we conceded the goal in. And our defense on corners and set pieces is horrendous. Just lacks the absolute basics of fundamentals of defending. Just simple as looking over your shoulder to see who's making a run behind you. And with Theo Hernandez, who is most definitely guilty on that De Ketelare goal, which a lot of people are saying, oh, it's a foul. Guys, this is never a foul. It was 100% the right call to let the goal stand. But I want to read this quote that Fonseca said after the game, and I quote, "In the second half, we lacked the ability to reach players up front. We had the ball, but unlike the first half, we couldn't get it to Leao and Morata. In the end, we lost to two set pieces." So it's crazy how Fonseca can acknowledge how shit we are on set pieces, but nothing changes, right? Like I said, against the Cagliari game, nothing changed. And of course, in this match, we conceded two of the same exact goals. And Theo Hernandez, man, you got blood on your hands. What a poor season so far from Theo Hernandez. And it's kind of shocking to see how far he's kind of fallen off, to be completely honest, because there was a point in the season where contract negotiations were pretty close. We were looking at a contract extension, but now it seems that those extensions have stalled. And I think, the management is kind of looking at an option to see if Theo Hernandez might go either in January or this summer. Not really sure, but we all know that every player in this team has a price. And I think for the right price, I think Theo Hernandez might go. Of course, I don't want to see Theo Hernandez go because on his day, this guy is the best left back in the world. And it's going to suck because he was a crucial part of this Scudetto winning team that seems like ions ago. But we have to keep quality players in this squad or else we're not going to be able to compete. And speaking of players who can't compete, Emerson Royale, the incompetence that this guy has, the just defensive lapses of judgment that this guy has is awful. Like when you see Ademola Lookman running at you, your first decision is to just give him space to run into. When you see Lookman running on that side, just running at Emerson, and Emerson is just backpedaling, giving him space, and eventually these lead to corners, and these corners we got conceded on. So I don't know who was the one who okayed this signing, and I think this is something that all of us fans have kind of been curious about on who made this signing happen. But regardless of the fact is, Emerson Royale is not a Milan player. I tried to back him in these last couple episodes because of that really good Empoli performance, but I guess I was swindled because I was absolutely played and I got sold a dream on what Emerson could potentially become. And this is the reality of what Emerson is, and I don't think it's going to be better, to be completely honest. And if he stays in this lineup, he's only going to be costing us games, to be completely honest. And I think a player who had some undeserved criticism was Yunus Musa, because the only reason why Yunus Musa is in this lineup is to give Emerson Royale that defensive insurance net. And it sucks because Yunus Musa can be utilized as such a brilliant player. And we see it time and time again. His work rate is so good. His adaptability to do anything on the pitch is something that we really need to take advantage of. And I feel like it's getting hindered because of guys like Emerson Royale. And I think a player who was lacking a lot of ability in this match was Loftus-Cheek. And you saw once Christian Pulisic came off on that injury, and it seems that Christian Pulisic is going to be out for the rest of the year until at least the beginning of January, but we're not really too sure on that. We're still trying to figure it out a little bit. But regardless, Loftus-Cheek in this attacking mid role is not the way. It's not good at all. And I feel like time and time again, a lot of us fans on Twitter, on Instagram, on you name it, on all these social media sites, see that Loftus-Cheek isn't the player for this lineup. So you're asking so many questions on why does Fonseca insist that Loftus-Cheek is the guy when we have probably one of the best Italian youth talents in the Futuro team, Mattia Librali, and someone who would most definitely just slide into this lineup perfectly, someone who has those attacking traits as an attacking mid, similar to Pulisic, taking the ball from deep, doing some dribbles, and creating chances that way. Loftus-Cheek doesn't do any of that. And you're starting to see that once Loftus-Cheek comes on, he offers absolutely zero going forward in the attack. And you saw once he came on, I don't even think we attacked that Atalanta goal, and I don't even think it looked like we were able to score a goal. I think the only person who was really trying to attack something was Leao, but even then, Fonseca, in that one quote, he was saying that we lacked the ability to reach players up front. We had the ball, but unlike the first half, we couldn't get it to Leao Morata. Well, you're the guy who put on Loftus-Cheek, so he understands where this team is lacking, but he still insists on making the same exact moves over and over again. And that's, I think, where the fan base loses Fonseca in, where he just does the same stupid shit every time, and we concede goals and drop points. So let's go to tops and flops. Top for me, I'm going to say Leao, because I feel like Leao was really the only player on it today. I feel like from minute 1 to at least minute 60, maybe, he was probably the only player who was trying to attack and create something. So for that reason, Leao is going to be my top. My flop, hands down, Emerson. Emerson for me was just so hard to watch in this game specifically because, yeah, against Juventus he was awful. But in this match, when you have a player like Lookman, probably the most attacking threat on Atalanta, running at you, you do not give him space. But Emerson insisted on giving him space, and say it how you want, but for me, I feel like Emerson costed us the game because, I mean, that last goal that Lookman scored, he's running behind him and Emerson doesn't even look over his shoulder. And I think that's a common theme of this season, is just us conceding set pieces on the back post. So flop of the match is Emerson Royale. And I think it's clear to see what the season objective is now, and it's to maintain top 4. And I think with a lot of teams punching above their weight, Fiorentina on, I think, their 9th win in a row or something like that, or just on a crazy run. Obviously, Atalanta in first place right now, and then Lazio doing really good. They just beat Napoli, the former league leaders. So you have all of these teams punching above their weight, and then Milan just constantly dropping points over and over again. And I think we need to see a change very quick so we can actually maintain that dream of making top 4 to maybe push out a team like Lazio, because even then we still have Juventus above us and Inter. So this season is very competitive this season, and I think Milan really missed the bar on this one to really capitalize on bringing someone like a top coach in and top players as well, because we got Pavlovic and Emerson when we missed out on guys like Thiago Santos and Buongiorno. And then, of course, we were linked with Antonio Conte and Thiago Motta and all these guys. We brought in Paulo Fonseca. So you see where this management kind of sees their vision of Milan trying to penny pinch their way to victory, when in a business like football, you have to spend money. And this management isn't willing to spend money. I'll give them their wins, their little Reinders wins, their Pulisic wins, and guys like that. And when you look at the rest of their resume, you got guys like Loftus-Cheek, Emerson, Pavlovic, and just so many misses. They have more misses than wins. I will give them their flowers when they deserve it, but at the moment, you're starting to see what these moves this management makes is hurting the team. And I think going forward, we have to see how far we can get in Champions League now. And kind of segueing to our next game in the Champions League, we play Red Star Belgrade. And at the moment in Champions League, we look in a pretty good position to finish in that top 8 position because we play Red Star Belgrade at home, and then we play Girona, and then I think Dinamo Zagreb, and we're away on that last game. So I think all those games have to be must wins. And if they do, I think I saw something where if we win 2 games and then draw 1, then we're still through. Not really sure on that, so don't quote me on it. But regardless of the fact is, those 3 games versus Genoa, Red Star, and Dinamo Zagreb all have to be wins, guaranteed. But going into that game versus Red Star Belgrade, we are at home for this one, and I'm expecting a win. I'm expecting a win for this one, and to be completely honest, I think we're going to win. I think we're going to struggle a little bit. Same thing with Slovan Bratislava. So I'm going to predict a 3-1 on this one. I think we're going to struggle a little bit in the beginning, much like we do against a lot of these other teams in the Champions League, but I think we're going to pull through, and I think we're going to get a nice little 3-1 comfortable win. And I think it'll really cement our spot going forward in the Champions League. So let's preview our next game in the Serie A versus Genoa. Genoa are in 15th place, but to be completely honest, guys, Milan is just so unpredictable this season because you can go from winning 3-0 to Empoli, and then you beat Sassuolo 6-1, but then you have such a poor defensive showing versus Atalanta. And then we really have to see how this team looks like, number 1, without Christian Pulisic, and number 2, how we fare off against Red Star Belgrade. Even though these are 2 home matches, and then this one we're going to be wearing that 125th anniversary kit. So I'm kind of looking forward to that because I think there's going to be some stunning pictures, to be completely honest. But going back to the game, I think we're going to struggle in this one. I think it's going to be one of those games where Genoa kind of tests us a little bit because they do have some attacking quality. Of course, they have, their protagonists in that team. But regardless of the fact is, I think we're going to struggle in this one. I'm going to predict a 1-0 win in this one. I think we keep the clean sheet, but it's going to be one of those gritty matches. Balotelli returning back to the San Siro for the first time in a long-ass time. So it's going to be good to see him back in the San Siro. But I think we're going to struggle in this one, so that's why I'm going to predict a 1-0 win. I think that'll do it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and get involved in the comment section below. What do you guys think about our chances in the Serie A finishing in top 4? What do you guys think about our chances in the Champions League? And how do you guys think we're going to fare off against Genoa in the Serie A? Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and see you guys in the next video. Ciao ragazzi.